crowdfunding in most cases gives you the ability to sell your product before you actually have manufactured your product. And that's kind of how I like to look at it, just from an kind of an easy way to think about it. You basically develop a prototype, you put it up on this platform. In our case, it was a platform called Kickstarter. People go onto that platform, they decide and kind of make a judgment call on whether your team is trustworthy and whether or not they can actually deliver on the product, and then they decide to commit a certain amount of dollars over to you.
Welcome to Unmuted Episode 2 with Tye Davis and
Parm to Hoot.
Parm to Hoot. We are back on the podcast to talk today about crowdfunding. It's Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and what we did with MuteMe as we went through crowdfunding and some things that we learned and things that were lessons learned. Let's just say that we could have done better, but hoping that this might be beneficial for you if you're thinking about doing crowdfunding, going out there doing a Kickstarter campaign or Indiegogo campaign, how those two can help you find the money, fund the money that you need to get going without having to go get a loan or trying to get something from someone, an angel investor, or someone that's just going to take a percentage of your company right away. Crowdfunding is a great way to do it. That's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, so I think from the onset, we should probably give everyone a high-level definition of what crowdfunding is, because people may not completely understand, and maybe we can talk about, just for a little bit, the types of businesses that do well on crowdfunding, because we were kind of an outlier. Technology is definitely one of the hotter spaces, but in recent years it hasn't been as hot. But we can talk about, with respect to crowdfunding itself, what it is, and start off with that, just so the audience has a good idea of what that looks like.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think it's a perfect way to start off. So why don't you do that for everybody and break it down, give them the background on what's crowdfunding, what does it mean?
Yeah, so I'll give a very simple explanation first before breaking it down. But crowdfunding in most cases gives you the ability to sell your product before you actually have manufactured your product. And that's kind of how I like to look at it, just from an kind of an easy way to think about it. You basically develop a prototype, you put it up on this platform. In our case, it was a platform called Kickstarter. People go onto that platform, they decide and kind of make a judgment call on whether your team is trustworthy and whether or not they can actually deliver on the product, and then they decide to commit a certain amount of dollars over to you, and you have certain rewards, because you're not really guaranteeing anyone anything. You're promising to try to deliver, but you're not guaranteeing anything, and those rewards then translate over to potentially, in our case, for example, it was a physical product, but it could be digital products as well.
Right.
And so when you do that, what that does is it gives your company an injection of cash for you to be able to go pursue the idea and go and try to go execute on whatever thing that you said you were going to try to do. So that's at a very high level what crowdfunding is. Now, crowdfunding can mean multiple different things, but that's kind of what we're talking about today. There's also crowdfunding where you go raise money from investors for your company, and you give up shares, but that's not what we're really talking about. We're talking about hardware, traditional crowdfunding, the old school crowdfunding model, where it's really just going out and raising money to go deliver a product or service. And so, because that definition just kind of gets thrown around a little loosely, and it's changed over time. And so just want to make sure we're clear about that.
Okay. Yeah. And that's perfectly clear to me. No, but I'm sure it's clear to everybody. And there's a lot of different ways to crowdfunding. I have a good friend of mine right now that's doing not Kickstarter or Indiegogo. They're using a different platform, do crowdfunding, where they're reaching out to their friends and family and their community trying to get funds. But today we're talking about Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Those are two that we utilized, one before the other, where we when we looked at should we do Indiegogo, Kickstarter, initially we had no clue. I mean, we knew what they were, but we had no clue about which one was the better platform, which one you should do first or second. And we reached out to a couple people that we knew, and someone that also had success, a friend of mine, Eric Chen, of me and Brittany's friend. who had a successful card game actually on Kickstarter that did really, really well. And he's been killing it with that right now out there. But he kind of nodded us towards Kickstarter saying, hey, this is where you want to start off. Kickstarter's kind of, I mean, Indiegogo might disagree, but I think they're kind of the first place.
They're the OG
platform. They're the OGs,
and they're the bigger platform for sure. So they're definitely the bigger platform. Yeah.
They are, and they are. So that was what was beneficial for us. I think we had created an account on Indiegogo to start, then we pivoted real quick and went to Kickstarter, and it worked out well for us in choosing that first. And so Kickstarter.
Yeah, we were going through the process, and I remember we looked into the submission requirements for Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and Kickstarter had a higher degree of submission requirements, and so we were like, if we want to launch fast, we got to go on Indiegogo.
Right.
But it would have been a mistake.
It would have been.
It would have been a big mistake to go there first because of the success that we got. Right. And so I can't say how well it would have turned out or not turned out, but more than likely, because Kickstarter allows you to, and we can talk about this kind of more in detail later, but because Kickstarter allows you to roll over what you've raised on other platforms, whereas Indiegogo does, but Kickstarter doesn't, it makes sense to go to Kickstarter first, establish credibility, and then roll that credibility over to Indiegogo. And because Indiegogo is a smaller platform, they're being more competitive in that way, trying to attract Kickstarter companies that have been successful, and we were able to use that to our benefit as well.
Exactly, and on Indiegogo was able to show the amount of money
that we raised
on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And so it added that to the what else we raised on Indiegogo. So what was the exact number? I think like 100.
It was, I always say 150 just to make it fair.
150 on Kickstarter.
And then another roughly 150.
And so what it showed on Indiegogo was at the very end like 300,000 raised, even though...
Yeah, it was like 289 or something.
289, even though 150 of that was from Kickstarter. It combined that, which helps in your marketing efforts because the more money you're raising, the more likely someone's going to want to also be a part and
buy your product.
And buy your product and put their money in.
Well, all of a sudden you have more credibility.
Yeah.
And so when you're a Kickstarter company, you're literally saying, hey, look, guys, we, not for established companies, but for a company like ours where we didn't have anything, you're literally saying, hey, guys, we have no credibility yet.
Yeah.
We have credibility in all these other areas, and we think, we can do this, but, obviously we don't have credibility in making this product. This product doesn't even exist yet. And so for something to not exist and for people to want to back it, if other people have backed it as well, then it lets you know that this company has enough money to be able to execute and finish this campaign. Whereas if you just barely go, like, for example, like I don't remember what our goal was, but I want to say it was like...
It was 15,000 on
Kickstarter.
Yeah, 15,000.
Yeah, so like if your goal is 15,000 and you're trying to go create a hardware product and you raise 17, you may not have enough money to go actually execute on that hardware product unless you put, your own money into, using your own bank account and putting money into the product, right?
Right.
And so you're going back and raising money from investors, from other people to finish this off because it's expensive to bring hardware to market. And people who are on Kickstarter users, they kind of understand that. And so if you don't blow it out of the water, the people don't necessarily have the confidence to, back your project because no one wants to pay, $25, $50 for nothing. And so that's just,
And I want you to actually talk a little bit more about that because, and I'm going to bring up something real quick here, but I want you to, in a minute here, talk about how, we set that goal of 15,000 and what that would have meant for us if we just raised 15,000 opposed to the almost 300,000 that we did and what that did for us in terms of manufacturing. But going back to the 15,000 piece, there is some psychology around the number that you set when you're crowdfunding, which is, more so maybe you need 15,000. You're hoping for more, obviously. 15,000 is what's going to get you going. But let's say you need 40,000 and you set it at 15,000. There's a psychological, phenomenon when if you've reached the goal of 15,000 and you've surpassed that goal, when people see that on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, like, okay, these people hit their goal already. So I know that something's going to happen. Now they're going to have to produce it so they're going to be more apt to funding that as well.
Yeah.
Even though maybe you actually do really need 40,000.
And you're supposed to say what you actually need.
You are, but
but everyone pretty much out there.
Yeah,
right?
and I mean,
they what they do is they try to do it as like a bridging gap, right? Like we've put in $20,000. We need $40,000. So I'm going to set my goal for $20,000 because that's what I need to bridge the gap.
Exactly.
Right? And that's what people do, but in reality, that's not what it costs to bring a product to market.
No,
it costs more than that.
It's not. And I mean, I've actually had a failed Kickstarter. I think like 4 or 5 years before doing this one. I was with a group of group of people that came out with an air pump. It connected to your tire, and it was supposed to communicate your tire pressure to an app.
Okay.
In the end, it ended up being, I think, a little too bulky where it wasn't working out for the tire, but we had asked for $50,000 on Kickstarter. And I think we got up to like 30,000. And if you don't hit your goal on Kickstarter,
you get nothing.
Right? Everybody gets their money back, right? So we needed 50,000. We got 30,000 of people putting their money towards it. We didn't hit our goal, so they all get their money back. And you don't get any of the money, and you either it's squashed right there, and you have to move on, or you try to figure out a different way, or
you relaunch
it, and maybe next time you ask for a little bit less. But again, it goes back to how much does it take for you to get a product to market, a product to all your backers, and to get going, and not to the point where okay, we got everybody their products, but are we going to continue this? As a business,
is this viable,
or is this like a one-time thing where we got it to them, but there's nothing else? And that's for us. We got close to that point.
We got close, yeah.
Well, even with the almost 300,000 that we raised, we almost it was a wash almost where we.
The thing with us was we raised a decent amount of money, but we were selling a product on our average price was like $25 a unit, and our production costs back then were $15 a unit.
Yeah.
And so when you add in that almost, I think it was like 1/3 of our customers were international, right? Customers, a little bit more than 1/3.
Yeah.
We were paying, $16, $17 to ship it to them. For every single international customer we had, we lost money.
Shipping was a disaster.
Yeah. So
we lost, lessons learned with crowdfunding and shipping internationally.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, but we lost money, and so we ended the campaign, right? We got through the campaign, and I remember we had a meeting with the team, and we're like, we've made it. This is awesome. We
money in the bank.
We got money in the bank. This is cool. We placed that first production order, and we get through that first production order, and it's like, okay, cool. We're still good. It was like more than half the money's gone.
Yeah.
I think we spent almost close to $200,000, right? Because after fees and everything, you're not left with that much. What you see online is not how much you actually get, because there's platform fees, there's Kickstarter fees that come out of it, and so then we got down to it and we start shipping product, and now we're shipping and me, Tye, Brittany, for a little while, we're in the warehouse every day.
Yeah, 6 straight weeks.
Yeah, in a non-air. So this is a nice warehouse because this is our place. Right?
Yeah.
But a friend was letting us use one of Tye's friends was letting us use his spot, and it wasn't air conditioned, and we're out in the valley in California, and it's 110 degrees outside, and it was hot.
It was brutal.
And we were shipping product,
and that was about 15,000 orders, and
yeah.
And the quick version of that is sitting in that warehouse, and why it took so long. It wasn't like we were just slapping labels on them there. So our product came pre-packaged, but at the time, because we were trying to build a relationship with our manufacturer.
Well, we didn't know who they were.
We didn't know who they were, and so
it was the middle of COVID. We couldn't travel.
Yeah, so we couldn't go visit a manufacturer, and we didn't quite yet trust to have our software on there. So what we did is they sent us the product all packaged, and so we unpacked that product, flashed the software on it, and then had to repack it. So we had a huge assembly line going,
and engrave on some of them too.
And engrave on some of them were on top of our product.
It says MuteMe, right? It says
MuteMe. It's stainless steel, and we have our logo engraved on just our regular B2C, but there's a lot of large corporations that want to engrave their logos on it, so we have them blank. And so,
and our original Kickstarter backers, the first 200 or
That's right.
300, we had done a promotion on
right.
Kickstarter
We
where
did
we said
I forgot about
we
that.
would engrave their name on them, right?
Yeah, so
we had all these custom devices in the beginning as
and those
well.
are one-offs, which
Those are one-offs,
it's not
yeah.
like just a streamline. You have to change the software program to
Yeah, you basically have to just type it in every time or copy and paste it every time and run it.
So the gist of that is like we were sitting in a warehouse for 6 straight weeks. Parm, me, Brittany.
Handeep was pregnant.
Handeep was pregnant or had a baby.
She came in the first 2 weeks, then had a baby.
Yeah.
I was gone for a week.
No, and we have footage of her
working
the day before because I think she got induced, right?
Yeah.
And so she was working the day before she had a baby.
Yeah.
So everyone was all hands on, and a ton
Friends
of
and family.
Friends and family, mostly
Everybody.
on, Parm had a ton of friends and family. I think my dad came out for one of them, but mostly Parm's family up, till midnight getting this packages ready together. But, and the point being is that there was the cost associated with everything and even the time spent.
Yeah.
People were graceful enough to do that for free because they loved us.
Yeah, we were
at least before they loved us. I don't know about afterwards.
We were paying in pizza.
That's right.
So we had friends and family down here helping.
Pizza and camaraderie, right?
Pizza and camaraderie.
We all got
music,
to talk
talking,
and be sick in the heat. Well, mostly everyone came later in the day when it wasn't as hot. We
were there. But not just that. And when we first started, we were okay. It got hotter as it went.
Because it was May, right? May, June?
Yeah, May, June, and then right up until we taped for Shark Tank.
Yeah.
So up until, remember, our goal was to make sure we got everything delivered before we went and taped for Shark Tank. Because we were so worried that on Shark Tank they were going to ask us, has everything been delivered?
And how was it? Was it like 15, 16,000?
It was 16,000 units.
16,000, and that includes, I think, like around 6,000 that actually... Staples
went to Staples.
We still
had to touch those,
which we had to do all those as well. And so it was around 10,000 for our crowdfunding supporters, and then 6,000 for Staples that was going nationwide to every store in the United States.
Yep.
But that back to your point, and go ahead you're talking about the cost and everything that's associated.
So basically we lost money. On that, and it's because we didn't have a good grasp and understanding of what actually goes into manufacturing a product. And if we ended up, like we were talking about this before in the car, if we ended up only making, $15,000, we had a game plan for that. But that's because we sell a hardware product that can be made this way.
Yeah.
For majority of products, it wouldn't work. But we went out and we looked at 3D printers. We looked at, we were like, hey, you know what? We even changed the design because of it, right? So we went out, we looked at all this stuff. We figured out that we could manufacture these here in the U.S. by 3D printing them, getting the PCBs ordered overseas, and then be able to deliver at the $15,000 mark. But that would have taken us 4 months. Mm-hmm. Right, it would have been 20 3D printers. We would have been sitting here, and we would have had to sell the 3D printers afterwards. We wouldn't even be able to hold on to the 3D printers.
That's a great business model.
Great business model.
Great business model.
All right, and it would have been like just prying them off, cleaning them off, slapping the PCB, getting the stainless steel cut and put on there. And doing that. But the reason we changed the design actually midway was because of that. Because we figured that, hey, this is the only way we're going to be able to deliver. And once we changed the design, that's when everything started to take off. So
how far into I guess talking about when everything's take off and talking about we changed the design mid campaign and Kickstarter, which
helps, no one does, by the way.
Yeah, which is very you're taking a risk there. But we did that. We're going to talk about how we brought on a marketing agency that specializes in crowdfunding. But what was the time frame to get to 15,000? And and I'll add actually with that is that we launched at a horrible time. Mm-hmm. Like we launched
at the worst time.
At the worst time, which is the holiday time, where ad costs and costs are already high, and you're competing against everybody here that's pushing their product out. Mm-hmm. It's the holiday time. People want you to buy, and then we're coming in and saying, hey, buy us too. You don't even know we're not even legit company yet, but buy us too. So how long did it take us to get to 15,000 to get to that success mark?
Yeah. So what happened was we launched on, I want to say it was December 3rd.
Okay.
right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, or something around there,
Yeah.
right? And so we launched on December 3rd. On Christmas Eve, we hit our goal. Because I remember I made those wood cutouts that said 100% on them.
Yeah.
Right? And I gave one to you. I gave
Still
one to
have that.
Scott.
I think
And
I still have that.
I have it somewhere too. And we made videos to put on our social media profiles, right? Like, thank
Yeah.
you for all of our friends and family that backed us. Because it was a majority of friends and family that backed us up until that point.
Right.
And like we were celebrating on the outside, but inside we were like, oh, holy,
Scared.
This is gonna be horrible.
Yeah.
Right. We're midway through. We're 20 days into the campaign, roughly, and we have another. Because we did a 45-day campaign, we have another roughly 25 days to go. And if we only raised 15,000, which a majority of it came from friends and family, what are we going to raise over the next 20, 25 days? And so that's where we were at that point. But when we did going back to changing the design for just a second, when we did change the design and we did launch with the new marketing agency, we did it at that same day. So we hit the goal because we knew beforehand that we were not trending well. Right? We were like,
Right.
yeah, like, because we knew every time a friend and family member backed us, we kind of knew who it was.
Right.
We saw the names coming through, right? And so we're like, oh, this is friends and family. This is friends and family. This is friends and family.
And you get excited on the first day because you've been building it up.
Yeah.
And, you have a lot of friends and family sitting there. And we actually didn't do a very good job of, a lot of people will get on with
They build up their emailing lists and
they
stuff.
build up an email list, which is,
Yeah.
extremely important. And we just didn't do that because we were trying to get to market quickly. Or they'll be on with, these companies that specialize in marketing, and they have months ahead of time that they're building it up. And we didn't do that. And so even without that, your friends and family, they all support you as soon as it launches. And you're like,
That's so cool.
This trajectory is like, we're going to if this continues each day, and then
It doesn't.
it doesn't.
Day
After that,
three.
Day 3, it starts
Yeah.
going down because all your people that, you built it up to, they've
already committed.
They've committed.
Yeah.
And so from there, it's like, okay, how do you keep going up and raising that? And that's where, we had a couple weeks of it trickles in, and we got to the 15,000. I remember for myself, I think we were on a holiday cabin trip with like my whole family when we hit that 15,000. And like you said, it was awesome, but it's like, all right, what's next? And then, and that's where we came in and started
The marketing efforts too.
efforts with Jellup.
But because we didn't know how well this was going to do, right? So we get through the 20 days. Day 5 or day 6, we were like, we need to change the design.
Yeah.
Because we saw what happened on day 1, 2, 3. Day 4, when the sales, or the intake started just falling off of a cliff, we're like, oh crap, this is not sustainable, right? Day 6, same thing. Okay, maybe we need to do better. And so we went back, and that's when we went back and fired up the 3D printers. We figured out that, and we actually did this not because we thought that this was going to increase sales or this was going to be, like a huge win for us. The reasoning for it was really like, oh snap, we're only going to hit like $20,000 total.
Yeah.
We need to change the design on our product so we're not pouring money into this thing.
Yeah.
Right. Because this is, at that point, we were not a success.
Right.
It was a notch in our belt. We have a successful Kickstarter campaign, notch in our belt. Is this a viable product? No, it is not a viable product. So in order for us to deliver now on this Kickstarter campaign, and then maybe do another Kickstarter campaign later, we needed to actually build this product.
Yeah.
And the only way we were going to be able to do that was to take and 3D print the product and then be able to put it together ourselves. So the plan was to basically buy these cheap 3D printers that you can buy for about $220. They're resin printers, so they're pretty good, high quality printers. We were going to manufacture the size of the device is the size of the device because of 2 of them fit side by side on that printer. That is the exact reason why.
That.
Yeah, that's the exact reason why they are that size. And so, we were like, okay, we'll do 2 at a time. We'll pull them off. We'll clean them. I had designed a tab on the inside that would break away from our drill. So we would pull them off, attach them to our drill, sand them, clean them off, and assemble them by hand. And we were going to do, all roughly 500 of these, 400, whatever it was, by hand, and over the next, couple months. and that would have been a horrible outcome.
Yeah.
But we would have still delivered because we said we were going to do it, and so we committed to that
I
action.
say it wouldn't have been fun. However, the other way wasn't that fun either. But we had a lot more. It was happier because it was 9,500 more than 500.
Yeah, well, no, a lot more, right?
Well, from crowdfunding, but
crowdfunding, yeah.
Yeah, so 15,500 more
Yeah.
From the 500 that we thought.
Yeah, and so that happened, and then we started working with the marketing agency, right?
Yeah.
And so that was like a big deal as well because both of those things happened at the same time. I remember I asked you, I was like, hey, let's put out some new content. You came out and you threw out new content with a new device. You really remember we talked about capacitive touch. You're like, I really want capacitive touch. We're like, okay, we'll engrave the tops. We'll do this. We'll do that.
Just huge for us.
Which is huge for us, right? We did all we threw out more promises, right, on that in that second wave of the campaign than we did in the first wave.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it started to resonate, and now we have marketing dollars starting to flow in.
Yep.
And it just takes off from there.
And it goes with, for us it was a scary thing because there's always you got to pay to play.
And you kind of do.
And you kind of do unless something that's very, very, very just out of this world. Everyone takes traction, but you got to get it in front of people's eyes, right? You got to get it in front of the people that are early adopters, that are people that like crowdfunding, that like Kickstarter. And so, we worked with, what's now an official partner of Kickstarter, which is a company called Gellup. And, we produce the content. I put the content together and getting that creative over to them.
Yep. And the images and stuff too.
And the images and everything.
Yeah.
I became an amateur photographer at that point. I remember buying, I think it's right over here. I could see it, which is a box.
Yeah.
That you could take photos in, and this product is not, this is not, it's not even, it's inside the box here, but it's not easy to take a picture of an illuminated button.
Product, yeah.
It's very hard. It's so hard that we've paid a lot of money to a professional photographer who couldn't figure it out. We've paid money to amateur photographers who couldn't figure it out, and then again another professional photographer.
I think we spent over $15,000 between the creative. When someone said that they would deliver, not just that
over time, not for crowdfunding, but over time.
Yeah.
Because everyone is especially the professional photographer, is confident that they can capture this illumination, but it is hard.
It is hard.
And in the end, you end up having to touch it up with Photoshop or something to make it look like it's illuminated. Still haven't found anyone yet that can just do it raw.
Because the device itself is emitting light. It's very difficult to capture.
Very hard to capture. So, I put that content together for Gellup, and then they have an established community, right? They have newsletters, they have Facebook communities, they have their email list of all these people that support crowdfunding
campaigns, especially technology products, right?
Especially technology products. And so they were able to take that and push it out to their audiences. They obviously get a cut of the backings that they generate.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Which they track and
they track, and that's their business model. Which it's
for us, it was super clear as day though,
right?
Because we had before we had the change, and after the change, and there's things, there's momentum, right?
Right. And what was that momentum? And talk about the trajectory, or what happened after we started this campaign. What did our we can call them sales, or what did our backing shoot up to on a daily basis? Yeah,
so we started off towards the end of when we were not doing well, we were only doing a few $100s a day. Mm-hmm. When things started to take off, right? I remember that first day we did double what we did, before. And then 2 days later we did double that again. And then we did double that again. And within 3 days we were doing $9,000, $8,000, $10,000 a day.
I remember we were always like 50,000. We're gonna hit the 60,000 mark.
Yeah, and we were because we were projecting forward based on where we were.
Yeah.
But sales kept accelerating.
Yeah. And
so when sales kept accelerating, our projections kept getting bumped up. And so up until the last day, we were like, are we going to hit 150? I remember that. Are we going to hit 150?
I think we fell just short of it, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we were slightly 48
short. 48 or 49 or something.
Yeah. But we were like, are we going to hit that? And we're like, if they, I don't know, but it was just kind of crazy to see that acceleration. So, it's not just $2,000 a day over 45 days,
Right.
or over 20 days, right? It's 2,000, then 3,000, then 5,000, then 8,000, then 9,000, and and it's just acceleration. And then you start to think, how long can we keep this going for? and then your Kickstarter campaign ends.
Then it ends. It does, and then you're like, oh,
I wish we did this from day one, right?
from day one, yeah. And then that part right there is where you then you're going to make a transition. And we'll talk about that, where you are going to Indiegogo, and so we were able to still tap into the market share. It's Indiegogo's market share, but Jelp was able to continue that, pushing that, and people were able to go purchase just on there. But yeah, you still always think about like who did we miss, or what did we miss if we had started this sooner? And this is kind of not, I don't know what the word is here to say, but I remember everyone was watching every single 1,000 mark that we hit on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Indiegogo, and then
no one was paying attention.
No one was paying attention anymore, and it was still another almost $150,000. But
it was the same amount.
But no one was
well, the excitement changed, right? Because the goalpost moves, right? And it's such a crazy thought that all of a sudden you're generating $7,000-8,000 a day, and that doesn't hit the same as it did in the very beginning.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, it's like, okay, we got to get going.
Yeah.
We'll keep watching this, but we got to deliver. And every day it's, hundreds, if not thousands of more devices that we have to make and deliver. Yeah. And so that time, what did we do? I think we did 40 days, right? Or was it 45 days?
45 days on Kickstarter.
Because on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, you choose a time frame, and I think it's anywhere from 30 to 50 days, maybe.
I think you can go as low as 20. And as high as 60 or something.
Maybe 60.
I'd have to go look. I don't know what it is.
Someone
anymore.
can correct us out there too if you know the exact number now. It could have changed in the last couple of years, but you choose that, and that's important, right? When you're choosing, how long do you think it'll take you to raise the funds you need, or
there's strategy behind it.
Yeah, or just like us, it's okay, if we had started the marketing strategy earlier, when we got to our end date, we could have perhaps made more money because we were still making thousands of dollars a day. Although the last 2 days, when people know your campaign's ending as well, there's a spike at the end as well because they want to get in at the very end.
Yeah. A lot of companies offer promotions and stuff.
So let's talk about incentives and promotions. Yeah. As you're building out the perks, I think Kickstarter calls it perks, or Indiegogo calls it perks?
Indiegogo calls it perks, I think.
Indiegogo calls it
Kickstarter calls it rewards.
Rewards. Okay, so
I think, I don't know. I could have back.
I think you're right, but what was our thought process in choosing the rewards and what people should get? And there's things like, early bird, talking about that, even though we didn't really...
we didn't get that much advantage out of it because it was just friends and family.
We didn't build up
we didn't build up an email marketing list.
Had an email marketing list been built up, there's a lot more advantage to getting people to purchase early bird, which is it's usually you're the very first people and you get a huge break and you only offer a limited amount, right?
Yep.
And so you want to be part of that first 50 or first 100. So what was our approach?
So we did do a perk for our first 300 customers.
Right.
That was a early bird special, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
The problem was we introduced it midway through the campaign.
Oh, don't do that.
Because we were figuring things out as we were going. We didn't have all of it figured out. Our whole approach to Kickstarter Indiegogo was get out there as fast as we can. We want to be the first to market with this type of product in the middle of COVID. So we didn't take everything into account the same way someone else might have. But that being said, there's a lot of cool things out there. And the one that we did was the engraving, right?
Right.
So we said, hey, I don't remember exactly how many people. I want to say it was 350.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because I think we said we offered it. Right. I think we offered it for 300, and then we said, if anyone between 300 and 350 asks us for it, we're going to do it for them anyway.
We had a couple of people. They were like, "I'm 351. Can you just do it for me?" And we did it.
Yeah, we did it. It doesn't matter. But yeah. So we did that, and that was one of them. And then the way we priced our products, right? So the way we priced our rewards, we wanted people to buy more. And one company, and I won't say the name because it's a large Fortune 50 company, but they took us up on their offer, remember? and they bought 100 units
At what, 15?
at 15,
Yeah.
right? And so we sold. I think one device was 30 each, right? If you buy two, it's 25 each. 4 was 20 each, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, and then 10 was like 18 or like it was like 2250 or something, and then it goes to like 20 or whatever. I think 10 was 20, and it kept going. But when you got to 100 units, it went down to 15.
Yeah.
And we had a large enterprise customer that actually bought 100, and they thought they were doing us a huge favor.
Yeah.
And which is great. I mean, it was super. Like,
It was cool to have. Yeah.
Super cool. Boosted our confidence. But now in retrospect, we're like, oh man, we lost money on that deal.
Yeah, we lost. Yeah, we did.
And we're lucky we didn't have to ship those anywhere. We hand dropped those off. Remember, otherwise we'd be paying for that too.
That would have been.
And so that's kind of how we structured the pricing, right? I can't think of anything else with respect to pricing that we did. We did offer the engraving. We offered the pricing packages. Oh, we did. Since we only had one single product, the only thing we could have done. And the first campaign was basically having the pricing based on the number of units. But on our second Kickstarter campaign, when we launched the Mini, we actually were able to bundle the existing device, right, and then have kind of cool bundling packages and cool accessory packages. And those accessory packages, all the way we kind of did it, that brought in like $5,000 or $4,000 in just accessories that we sold, right?
So I mean, I would say like for anyone that's out there that's trying to do Kickstarter or something, if you have a way to bundle things, if you have more than just one product, it goes far. I think for
throw a shirt in there.
Yeah, for the Boba card game that Eric did, I think he had a extended packs or extension packs. You could buy the basic game or you could buy the extension pack card game for a different tier, and so there's additional incentives. And
people want to support you, especially if you're doing something, and if you can deliver additional value, why not capture some additional revenue there? Yeah.
All right. So, again, those perks or rewards, whatever, each one we call it, those are very important. It's a big part of your strategy. Again, kind of, when you offer those prices, setting the amount that someone this is only offered to the first 100 people. This is offered to the first 50 people.
We did that too, I think.
No, we did that. We did that. There's also, there is some ways too, like if you can also extend it in different ways if you're hitting almost to your limit and you want to still give people the ability to do that. But big part of your strategy. Another big part of that strategy is just how you present the content, because in someone's landing, it's basically a landing. It is a landing page. Just a landing page. There's your product, and you have to tell your story.
Your thumbnail.
Yeah. Just the thumbnail in itself is
it matters.
You're gonna have a static photo though, a thumbnail of the product, and then it's pretty crucial to have a video that it's not just me, Tye, standing up here and saying, hey, here's me talking. It's actually like a product showcase. What's the features? What's the capabilities? And we were able to put together a pretty decent one for the resources that we had then.
Zero resources. Just you.
Just me.
Just going out there and
my
getting some friends
imagination
and
creativity.
Together and shooting stuff. Yeah.
And shooting stuff. And then once that person lands there, if you've got them, if you hook them in there, then the next part is your rewards, your perks on the side. They're going to look at those. It's also just the description of what you're doing, who the team is. That's people want to know. They want to attach, the story and the person to the product, because it's they're coming in and they're supporting you and they want to know who they're supporting. Yeah. And so you put like a little profile of who you are on there. And then
we had fun with our profiles.
Yeah, we did. It was interesting.
Because people don't know, right? Like they're backing. Like when you go out and you buy a product from a store, you get it right away. But if someone says, "Hey, we're going to deliver this in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months from now," right? And we have no record or anything where we've delivered something like this in the past. People are taking a bet and they're taking a shot. And what you're offering them is you're offering them the ability to get a slight discount, get the product first for taking that shot on you. But in order for them to feel confident taking that shot, they want to know who you are as a person.
Yeah, it's a mini version of we can relate to this because we were on ABC's Shark Tank, but on Shark Tank, the audience and the sharks want to know your personal story. What makes you, what got you to this entrepreneur aspect of trying to create this product? Are you a person that's just, hanging out and somehow you stumbled upon it? Or do you have the story of like, this is why we're trying to build this product, here's the reason why, here's the benefits. And so
and products that have stories, right? Wherever they are, they do better.
They do. Yeah. And then, you could think about, think of some of your favorite brands out there and what the story is behind them. It may not be all of them, but there's a lot of them out there that have a story or something that you closely relate to that makes you want to purchase that brand. But again, for Kickstarter and Indiegogo, it's just the structure of setting up a description, whatever you're trying to push, whatever product you're trying to push out there. What benefits does it bring?
Your timeline.
That's another big one. People want to understand the timeline. Okay, if I'm giving you, $25 now for one of these devices,
where are you in your process?
Yeah.
And how long before?
Yeah.
You're going to finish?
Are you close to production? Are you, 30 days away from production? Am I getting this 3 months from now, 6 months, a year from now? Because that's a risk that crowdfunders take when they're backing you. Is there's no guarantee.
A lot of crowdfunding campaigns don't deliver.
They don't deliver because people don't know how to properly budget, properly strategize on what type of money it takes to produce something. So they might get people, I asked for $20,000 like we talked about earlier, and I get that $20,000. Well, it took $50,000, and
we hear that complaint all the time. They're like, you guys sell this product for $39.
Yeah.
Right? Like, why are you selling this for $39? And when you take a step back and you think about it for a moment, go on Amazon and go look at what just the cable costs.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, if this product shouldn't be $39, how come a cable out there, just a regular USB cable, costs $9? Why is that? It's because things are expensive.
Yeah. Things
are expensive. Things take time. Packaging is expensive. Shipping is expensive. Importing things into the country is expensive. Producing things is expensive. Stainless steel is expensive. PCBs are expensive. Chips are expensive. So, and then on top of that, you have to run your business.
Yeah.
So, you have all those costs. You have, those are called, COGS, right?
COGS, cost of goods sold.
Yeah, cost of goods sold. That's all your costs of just producing something, just getting it, sitting in, literally your warehouse. Then you have to ship it to, the end user, right? The end user has to use it. The end user has to have support. The platforms have to be supported. These things are expensive. And so when you're on Kickstarter, a lot of times people go in with this because it's meant for people like us that don't know what we're doing, right? Or didn't know what we were doing actually. They go onto that platform and they try to launch something, and they think, hey, I've seen this product or something similar to this or something that looks like this on the shelves at my local Walmart, and it was $10, or this was $100.
Yeah,
I could produce this for $100, and it's like, yeah, but that company produced 100,000 units this last month. you know, right? They're producing 1.2 million units a year. You're going to produce 10,000. There's a big difference between that and this. And a lot of people, and you kind of said, a lot of people, they look at the cost to make, that's the only cost. And you just covered all the different costs that come into it. And that's what people like, oh, what's going to cost me $4 to make? Yeah. Well, there's all the other additional things that make it, what's the landed cost, which is, what shipping and import and all the different costs that come to actually getting it to your doorstep, aside from just the specific cost to make it. And the costs don't end once it even gets to your doorstep.
Right.
For some products it does.
We talk about support.
Yeah,
right?
But some products it doesn't. Yeah, for us it doesn't.
It's a software product.
It's a software product, right?
We got to support people.
We got to support people. And not just that, even for regular hardware products, a lot of times it doesn't, because there's people out there that return product. Yeah. Right? So when a product gets returned, you pay for the return shipping, right? And especially if you're buying from certain platforms, right? You're paying for the return shipping, you're paying for the processing, you're paying for someone to inspect that product, then you're paying to make sure that product is cleaned and ready to go, and then that product's been put out to some secondary market. Like even in regular products, even with physical products, I'll use Willoco as an example, baby clothing.
Yeah.
Right. You're not thinking, oh, this is going to get supported, but it does. You have supported costs, right?
There. Yeah,
and so
a lot to it.
And they may not be as large as the ones for MuteMe, obviously, but they're still there.
No, they cut into margins. They
cut into margins
for Willow,
yeah.
and I think for us as well at MuteMe is that if someone wants to return something, or in this case with baby apparel clothing, which is my wife's Brittany's brand. They want to exchange for a different size, that we're not at the scale of Nordstrom's and Target and all that stuff. So, pay for the shipping costs back, but we're still going to send you that next size and pay for that shipping. So not only if we offer free shipping, then we're covering the shipping initially in the beginning, but then again, we're paying it again. So that's cutting the margin. So now I've just taken away $4 or $5
more
from the one product that we sold. That's
just the one way. Plus, you had to now the packaging on that product was destroyed.
Yeah.
Right. The labor that went into shipping that product. Right.
Yeah.
The tags. Right. Whatever. And then that product when it comes back to you, you're not able to sell it at that same price. Right. A lot of times you're taking a cut on that product.
Yeah.
As well,
or it just can't sell it again. For baby apparel, we can't sell it again.
There you go.
We've lost it at that point, especially if you put in it.
So that's a total write-off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so then it's a huge, that's even more of a cost that's lost. And so it's just extremely important to know as you're going in to these campaigns, what truly you need for the amount of finances to actually make this a viable product and a viable company, if that's what you're hoping to do. And so,
or at least complete the Kickstarter campaign.
So when we look at that timeline, have a good idea of, the production time it takes, the shipping time it takes, because that's important. And it's important to be transparent about that to your customers, because they want to know when they're getting their product. They're giving you their money. They're fronting their money for you for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, where they're not actually getting anything back until that time. So they want to know when they're going to get it back. And they will let you know if you say, hey, July 2023, we're shipping products. July 2023 comes around and you're not shipping products, you're going to start hearing from people in the comments, and they're going to be asking where their product is, what's the updated timeline. And on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, I'm pretty sure on Indiegogo, comments are forever. You can't delete comments, because those are the people that backed you. You need to respond to them, but you can't go and delete any of their comments. If someone wants to say something about you, they can. They have the right to do so, and it stays there. And I think that keeps it honest. It keeps it honest, the integrity of you not going in and making it look all fluffy and stuff. But it's hard to deal with that kind of stuff at first, because you want to make sure you're keeping everybody happy. All it takes is one person to say, I didn't get mine, or I didn't get mine, and then you get a chain reaction, or where's this? And then one person sees that comment, they're going to add on to that. And so it's just important that on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, that you are just always communicating with your backers, just keeping them up to date. Them up to date. If there's a delay, let them know. Yeah,
we were doing it, I think, every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks, yeah. But there's also strategy to updates as well. You don't want to over-update everybody. You want to be timely with it.
What we said was every time we have something substantive, anytime we have something substantive, we were gonna do it, and then we were doing it every 2 weeks, I think. And I think we were pretty good about that. I think we got towards the end of the campaign, once everything was cleared out. I know there was a few times where we wanted to send out a closeout message and we didn't do that, and but other than that, I think along the way we were pretty good about our communication with our customers.
We were good, and even today we still get people that comment on them, because
and that's hard.
It's hard. I mean, we're a couple years back, and so
we don't have access to the same databases anymore. Every time that happens, we have to go and dig up stuff,
request it or ask
it,
and so you have a certain amount of time access to your backer list with Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And after, I don't know if it's like a year or something, maybe someone can...
I think it's 1 year.
1 year, they take that away. But another big part of the crowdfunding is that when it comes time for you to ship products, and this is
the survey.
This is a controversial thing, because it's hard for you, the person that's putting the product out there, is that you say, okay, the campaign's over, and you send out a survey. This is through Kickstarter. You send out a survey.
You only get one shot.
And you get one shot. So Kickstarter only allows you to send out a survey where you can ask specific questions. Mandatory is that they have to give you their shipping address. That's mandatory. And it's now the responsibility of the backers to fill that survey out. And if they don't, you won't have their shipping information. So you can't ship them their product. And so what happens a lot of times is people don't see the email from Kickstarter, that one email that you get, because you can't resend it after that. And they never see it and they never fill out their information. 6 months later, they're like, hey, you never sent me my product. And you have to be like, hey, unfortunately, you never filled out the survey, so I don't have an address to send it. Or for us, we still have people 2 years later who remembered somehow. Maybe they
saw our ad or something.
Saw our ad.
And they're like, wait, I backed this.
They're like, I never got it from you. And it's like, well, we never got your address. And after a year, we don't have access to their information anymore. So there's a way you can still help them, but it's a lot more manual. But because of there's gaps in the process, you end up, it ends up being very slow, at this stage when you're 2 years out from a campaign. It does. And so, and a lot of times you don't send out 100% of the people that backed you, because people just forget to fill out that survey. And, you hope that they do because they initially backed you and you want to get them the product. And
you want to be done.
Yeah, you want to be done.
You want to feel like it's complete, but it's not.
Exactly.
Right. So that's one of the hard things about Kickstarter, where, you think you launched on this date, you did this. And there's some people, I guess there's people out there that do just call it quits and they call it done. But we're a legit company. We don't want our brand tarnished.
Right.
So we go out there and we fulfill on these orders still. Yeah. Even though they're,
and those comments live forever. They can still comment on the Kickstarter page.
So it's 2 years old but we still do it. And but it's totally on the users at that point of, the platform to fill out that survey. But that's not how it works in the real world. Yeah. So just, be prepared for that if you do a Kickstarter campaign. We had, because we were selling a, $20, $25 product, we had thousands and thousands of backers, which makes it even more complicated. Yeah. If you're selling a more expensive item, like, for example, Peloton was a Kickstarter company. A lot of people
I forget about that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, but Peloton was a Kickstarter company, and for them, they're selling a much more expensive product. Obviously, they're not going to have the same number of backers. Right. They're not going to have that many people backing them, even though they raised a lot more money. Yeah. And so it's just, but when you have the amount of backers that we did for a low cost product, it's very hard to manage on the back end. And the data output from Kickstarter is messy. So
maybe they've made it better since then, but at the time
it was really messy. We got output reports from them, CSV Excel files, and we were taking all that information and trying to dump it into our shipping platform. And
it was a shipping Easy Ship.
Easy Ship.
Is that what we used?
Yeah. And so and that was not fun.
But let's talk about the shipping part, because that's a huge part. Because we've talked about cost, we've talked about what it takes to build, and now you get to this point where you're like, and for us, okay, $348,000 or whatever it might be dollars. And then you get that in your bank account, and then you've paid to manufacture the products. You've gotten it in hand. Well, you forget about the shipping costs sometimes. You're like, oh shoot, and for us, how many thousands of people we had to ship to around the world. Yep. And so now you have to go and find a platform that can help you ship. Shopify and Indiegogo, they have partners, and at the time we chose Easy Ship, which wasn't as easy as we had hoped it was at the time.
And it all comes down to your margins, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have, that's why you want to charge more, because you don't want to do what we did. I would say that what we did was great for us, great learning opportunity, great way to bond. Good on a lot of fronts, but not good on an operational front. Yeah. Because we sat in a warehouse in 110 degrees weather, walked, through the snow. No, I'm just joking. But 15 miles uphill both ways. But you know what I mean, right? Yeah. We went through pain to deliver the product, which was good for us in a way. But how nice would it have been if we just charged $5 more, and we were able to hand it off to a 3PL. A 3PL is a third-party logistics company, to then be able to fulfill all of them for us, right?
And then on top of that, VAT,
so-
what about VAT?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So,
taxes and everything else in other countries.
from the United States shipping out in other countries, there's VAT costs, and that was a concern with a lot of our customers because they had to pay those costs on top of what they paid, and that doesn't make a lot of people happy as well.
But that's the way that platform is.
Yeah.
And so we fortunately attracted and unfortunately attracted people to our product that were first-time Kickstarter users also.
Right.
So not only did we get a lot of Kickstarter backers that backed our product, we also brought people into that platform. And so because we had such a popular product during COVID, and so because of that, some of these folks did not understand that when you buy a product from Kickstarter, that the local VAT taxes, local tariffs or whatever, depending on the country, whatever they're charging, you still have to pay those costs. And so when we ship the product to them, a lot of times they would get a call from their shipping carrier saying, "Hey, you owe €6 on this product," and they would be like, "Oh, I'm not paying €6," and they'd tell them, "Okay, you're not getting the product," and the product would bounce back to us.
Yeah.
Right, and so the product bounces back to us. We get it back, and then like a year later, they're like, "Man, I didn't get the product, and this didn't happen. I really want that product."
Yeah.
And so sometimes they would reach out to us again and say, "Hey, I want this product now." And we'd go back and look at our records and we'd be like, "Dude, you refused delivery on this product."
Yeah.
And in most cases, I mean, in all cases, actually, we shipped it out.
You're trying to ship it out.
We ship it out and we want to close it out. But like those types of things you don't think about, as someone who's launching a campaign, because most of the time we spend, if you're an American like us, right, you're based in the U.S., you're just accustomed to things how they are here.
Yeah.
But that's not how things operate around the world. And Kickstarter is a global platform. You're going to get an audience that's global. Like Germany, for example, was like huge for us, right? And you're going to get that global audience getting their eyes on your product, buying your product. And that means that you have to think globally and you have to understand how shipping works and how logistics work globally. And that's a little bit different than how things work just here in the U.S.
It is. And that's, and we sprung into this so fast that, we were learning along the way. But to your point, like one of the biggest things we learned, we had chosen a platform and for our international shipments, we had them shipped out of Hong Kong because we had enough volume.
But not all.
But not all of them because that might have been my fault. I think I miscounted.
You did? I don't remember.
I think I miscounted the amount of boxes that we sent to Hong Kong.
Okay.
So there wasn't enough, and so the remainder came to the United States, and so we had to fulfill the last one. So that one was on me.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I shorted Hong Kong. But the other part of that is that with this platform that we had chosen at the time, it gives you a bunch of different options in terms of the providers, the couriers that you can use. And we're not as familiar with, international couriers as we are here domestic at that time. And so there would be options, which was the cheapest option. And it was
horribly bad options.
Yeah, but and it would say there was tracking, but in the end it was like the worst courier option you could have chosen. It would take up to like 4 to 6 weeks for it to be delivered, and then their tracking just actually wasn't anything. They didn't show any tracking, and so it usually dealt with like specific countries. I think Germany was one of them that we had trouble with, where
a lot of countries in Europe we had trouble with.
Yeah,
some countries in Asia we had trouble with too.
These products just disappeared.
Yeah,
and we never knew where they were, and
all of a sudden they would show up.
Well, they would show up sometimes to the person,
sometimes
or
they'd come back.
6 months to a year later, we just would get packages randomly that just never were delivered because they got stuck at customs.
And we weren't even at that location anymore.
Yeah, we weren't at that location. We had to go back and pick them up. But also, on Kickstarter, there's an option for the backers to put their phone numbers, and it's optional. And if they didn't put their phone number, customs had nobody call. Yeah. And so what's that mean? That just means it stays there. And so you really want to encourage people to put their phone number in, especially if they're international, so that a phone call could be made. But yeah, for us, and what we did is those people are like, "Hey, I never received anything," so we'd ship from the United States. So now you're incurring double cost.
You're down a unit.
The product comes. Some of those products came back, and by the time they came,
some of them didn't. Right?
Some didn't. But by the time some of those products came back to us, we were already onto our newer versions and they were no longer relevant. So they're just batch one.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, like a year later. And so then at that point, you're just out, you know, a product. So that was, you know, a really big lesson learned amongst all the things with crowdfunding. You know, the last piece, I'll say that we don't have to talk too much because Indiegogo is pretty similar to Kickstarter. Is just that
the back end's better though.
Yeah,
I will say I don't want to put Kickstarter on blast.
And again, they may have changed. Kickstarter may have updated
they
some
may
things.
have made some changes, but Kickstarter as a platform with the people, absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
The community, absolutely incredible, completely robust. Exporting data out of Kickstarter, nightmare. Just total nightmare. Indiegogo, platform community, much smaller. Nowhere near as robust as Kickstarter. But their tools, their development, their back end, 100% way better, way more robust. And, you know, with Kickstarter, you're saving things multiple times. You're copying and pasting so you don't lose anything, you know, right? It's a little flaky. With Indiegogo, right? None of those concerns, right? But obviously much smaller community. But we still did really well on Indiegogo as well.
We did, and I highly recommend, you know, kicking it off on Kickstarter, and then you carry that over to Indiegogo to tap into that community and get backers there. Again, once you go onto Indiegogo, it'll show as a total the money you made from Kickstarter combined with what you make on Indiegogo. I think it's below the actual amount you make on Indiegogo, but it says total raised, which is extremely helpful for your product. So, you know, that was our experience with those two platforms.
Great platforms.
And we're going to use them again.
We're going to use them
probably here in the near future because it's just a great way to get their product out in front of eyes. It's a great way to raise money.
And we're not the only ones doing that either. Established companies are going out of their way to go and try to build a platform or try to gain some audience and eyes on Kickstarter or Indiegogo because it's a great way for them to kind of validate their ideas, fine-tune their ideas before they launch a product, you know. And so it's a great tool. It's a great tool for anyone that wants to launch any kind of physical product, game, book. You know, a lot of these types of things that we don't really, you know, always think about, you know, are things that Kickstarters really help people with.
Yeah. So, you know, any, put in the comments or wherever you want, reach out to us. Any questions on Kickstarter crowdfunding, we'll try to, you know, get around to answering those and with our experience, or just tell us about your experience. If, you know, there's things that you figured out that worked for you, if you've done a campaign, or things that didn't work out for you, but lessons learned, we'd love to hear from those. But, you know, appreciate the time and listening to this, talking about crowdfunding, Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Go out there, get your product on it, get that money, get that seed money, and build yourself a company.